Greetings everyone, my name is Buck Business, and today I'm going to be reviewing the movie Doctor Strange with spoiler warnings ahead. So, we follow Doctor Strange while he is a actual doctor doing surgery. He saves an individual's life after that individual's assumed was dead. Afterwards, we see Dr. Strange in his vehicle riding down a highway. He's getting a call about his next patient, and he's all about saving the people who can be saved. It's all about keeping a perfect record. Unfortunately, Dr. Strange was not paying attention and crashed. After getting fixed, his hands were all sorts of messed up, but his face was able to heal past the injury, although I think that type of crash would have probably killed an individual, but, can't have a movie if the character is dead, so we get past that little lump, and after Doctor Strange feels like this method of being healed isn't quite enough, he seeks out help, and he ends up going to a different location on the east side where he meets the Ancient One. Now, of course, a lot of what this movie offers next is a lot of exposition. Now, as someone who doesn't know a lot about Doctor Strange, I have not seen the original movie, so I am aware that technically this is a reboot, which is going to unfortunately join the overwhelming sea of reboots, but at least with this, I'm coming in this with a clean slate, as it were, but I once again have to stress that there is a lot to take in. There's all these names of Dormammu, who's this evil overlord creature of the dark dimension. There's this book they used called the Cagliostro, I hope I pronounced that right. There's the bad guy, Galicius. I know I did not pronounce that right, but that's fine. And so on and so forth. So, Doctor Strange practices going out of bounds, constantly refusing the Ancient One's advice, and going about doing things out of the rule book, as it were, of this whole learning of the magic. The bad guys sort of roll in. Doctor Strange is forced to move about from dimensions and all this mirror astral projection and whatnot, and it turns out that the mirror world makes the bad guys stronger, so they have to avoid all this madness that appears in the mirror world. And once I'll just call him the bad guy because I cannot pronounce his name properly, so to be fair, he's not the most memorable bad guy. He's just, he was a prior student who found the dark method and says that he can heal the world through the breaking of time, of reaching this sort of everlasting or eternal life. So, Doctor Strange, through his combatants and through his training, sort of barely holds off. Unfortunately, the Ancient One does meet a eerie fate of death, but she says that this is just part of the cycle, that this is what it is all about. So once Doctor Strange finally sees that happening, he's able to go back, and the bad guys sort of move on to their final location, and the dark Dormammu was about to escape upon the world, and Dr. Strange uses a very interesting method of stopping him. He had learned previously about a time spell. So, upon reaching this final boss, or the big bad of the movie, he decides, Dr. Strange, that is, to put a endless loop spell on, and the Dormammu creature, the face creature, the evil, kills him, and then as soon as that happens, everything resets to when he says the line, something along the lines of, I've come to make a bargain with you, and he keeps coming back in and saying it and getting killed over and over again. And this, of course, causes Dormammu to get upset, and he asks what Doctor Strange wants, and he says that he wants the Earth to be left alone, as well as all the rest of the bad guys to be swept into this version, this sort of endless loop, I guess, is what he asked for specifically. So that wraps up that, and then he resets everything, all the damage that was done. And that pretty much wraps up the movie, and of course, can't have a typical Marvel movie without an after credit sequence, and we get a sit-in with Thor. Now, to be honest, I don't particularly am too fond of Thor. I didn't even bother to watch a sequel. I think out of the Marvel movies, Thor has been the one that has struggled the second most, that being right behind the Hulk, who has had a bad stream of luck in the past. But I feel like now Thor is getting that treatment now, ever since his first movie, really, and that is followed up in a sequel, but this is about Doctor Strange, so I'll get back to that. As far as this movie goes, the exposition is very heavy, and the combat is very interesting. The character of Doctor Strange is one of someone who sees the world, or sees himself above all else. There cannot be flaw, it's all about the science. All that is until the magic part of the world is introduced to him. And then he breaks the rules, and it's still sort of all about himself up until that point where the Ancient One passes away, and I think it was in that moment where Doctor Strange finally realized what he really wanted to accomplish. And, at least this movie has the character going through some character development, because otherwise I feel like this movie could have been a lot more weaker if it hadn't done that. But if you're not looking forward to a heavy exposition movie, then I actually probably wouldn't recommend watching Doctor Strange. Or if you are going to watch it, perhaps give it more than one watch, because there is a lot of information to take in. So with that being said, I suppose I'll give this a movie score as per usual for the movie reviews that I do, and I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. Now, I'll give it a 6 out of 10 primarily because of the exposition and how much time it took for me to fully understand what was going on. I mean, it was more than halfway through the movie, and I was finally starting to pick up on the names, on the sort of what was going on, and fighting sequences helped carry the movie along. The character development that did happen also helped to boost, but I feel like there could have been a bit more to make it at least a 7 out of 10. That being a 7 out of 10 for me is a solid movie, but I feel like there are a few more flaws here. So again, 6 out of 10. Still not a bad movie by any right, but could use a bit more here. Anyways, with that being said, that is my review for Doctor Strange. And as always, if you like this video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, farewell everyone.